Excuse me.
League NPC.
I promised my son he could
Craft his first item.
and
Harvest League.
Yes, it's the latest craze. Try some, won't you?
Go ahead, Ralphie. The stranger is offering you a
Craft.
Oh, Daddy, this tastes like...
Chaos Orbs.
Holy Moses, it does taste like...
Reforging.
I want more.
Yeah, me too. We'll take a bushel or a packer. Just give it to me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Harvest League. And before we begin, yes, this video is a bit out of schedule, but so am I. To be totally honest, I have been quite hooked on the league mechanic for the past few days. However, nothing is perfect and Harvest has plenty of rough and sharp edges, which is why the main topic of tonight's content is that precise week 1 experience with the league mechanic. I'll also wrap up the league starter experience later on in the video, so if you were waiting for updates on that matter, be sure to stick around for those. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that on last week's video I stated that while the mechanic is a bit of a clusterfuck, there is potential for fun if you take your time and learn the ins and outs of the mechanic. I still believe in that, and after playing with it for quite a little while, my opinion hasn't changed. Having said that, there are some things that started happening recently that are gonna sound like tinfoil hat mumbo jumbo, which is pretty much the reason why I'm making this video. I am not going to trash the current league because I do see potential to make great items and have a lot of fun, but some things do not sit well, and I think me and plenty of others do see that if not changed, Harvest may end up harvesting the population rather than keeping it healthy. Before we move on with the topic at hand, if you're new around here and you end up enjoying the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyways, back to the content. So, if you've been playing since the league start or you've been following Harvest since the start, you know that the amount of seeds that we used to get was rather poor. As in, you'd barely get any seeds to plant, and as such, you had to grind multiple zones or maps to get enough seeds to cover your collector's play area and interact with the garden. And people started complaining about it, as it's tradition, but it was kinda justified. After all, the league's thing is collecting those seeds and playing with the garden, right? So during last week, GGG confirmed that they will be increasing the number of seeds obtained per zone, where areas of higher monster level, aka higher map tiers, will yield larger amounts of seeds to plant. On Thursday night, this patch is released and suddenly everyone starts getting enough seeds to cover a collector's area rather quickly. It was actually kind of funny, from barely any seeds to barely any space left to keep planting seeds. It is at this point that I start really getting hooked into playing with the garden because I keep getting cool crafting stuff. Remove X modifier, augment an item with Y modifier, remove X and add Y modifier, you know, fun stuff. So I start crafting some things here and there with this, and I was looking forward to clearing the garden every couple maps to hopefully get more powerful crafts to play with. However, after the patch, and this is where it all boils down to conspiracy theories, the crafting options seem to become less and less common. On Thursday, just before the patch, I had come across a couple of crafts, but during Friday and most of Saturday I came across none. This stealth change kinda made me feel like I was wasting my time chasing stuff that was seemingly more rare than a day or two before, especially when the so-called crafting league was quickly devolving into flavored chaos spam league, which I think essences and fossils have already covered. So yeah, something was wrong, at least it felt that way. And turns out I wasn't alone in this feeling. The subreddit was getting flooded with memes and posts that quickly devolved into people complaining and calling out the developers for quote-unquote stealth nerfing the mechanic. This, as all Path of Exile things, caused a huge conflict of interests. Some people claim that the league mechanic, which was marketed as a crafting league that will make standard players jealous, was failing in delivering that experience, while others will defend the fact that having an abundance of good gear, short of mirror tier, was bad business. The farther I got into the debacle, the louder side was in favor of turning the crafting to 11 instead of gatekeeping the powerful stuff. From my own experience, I do think that the rate at which we were finding the targeted slams or annuls was decreased or something along those lines. This feeling was exacerbated on Friday and early Saturday because I found no good crafts at all, after fully clearing my garden plots multiple times throughout both days. However, I'm gonna break off the main topic for a little moment, and it's gonna sound a little bit like shilling, but please do not say it that way. It's something that I feel like a lot of people forget about when it comes to playing games like Path of Exile. This game, at its core, is a game about grinding. it's an action RPG after all. It's all about chasing something, whether it's the perfect roll on a piece of gear, the most min-maxed build, amassing currency, living through hardcore, grinding towards level 100, etc. They are not a 1 hour a day goals, they are grinds that require investment, which is something that not everyone is willing to live through. At the end of the day, it all boils down to personal reasons. Some of us are no-lifers and this quarantine shit has gone long enough that we can afford kinda to keep playing games non-stop, but others, more useful members of society, may not have that luxury. Now, does that mean that casual players should stop playing and go somewhere else? Nope. In fact, they make the bulk of the community and losing them is probably the least smart outcome of these kinds of debacles. Harvest being marketed as the league that will make standard jealous or break the game league may have been misinterpreted by some as play the mechanic once or twice and craft unethical stuff, and as we've experienced, that is not the case at all. But see, here's when things get conflictive, because you're telling me that Harvest is a league all about crafting, right? Well, how come 90% of the stuff that we're coming across is just reroll an item guaranteeing X or Y mods? You know, like essences or fossils, some socket colors and links too. Sure, this might have been useful when the league started and you wanted to get a certain piece of gear covered while you gathered currency for something better, but they fall off really quickly. Instead of playing around with gear, all these seeds are just becoming used to feed higher tier seeds. The general consensus is that most of these reforge options are better off being used on maps or jewels, rather than essential gear on the character, and you get them by the dozens, which also piles on the overall feeling that the juicy crafts, aka the targeted Exile Toronuls, became even less common. But I kept playing because I wasn't super convinced that it was nerfed. I kept playing, and on Saturday night I eventually came across more augments and removes, and remove and augment mods. Sure, I wasn't finding a lot of them, or at least as many as I was getting before the patch, but I got enough to rekindle the need to grind the garden looking for more of these to play with. My strategy quickly devolved into planting as many seeds and filling as many collector plots as possible, so that when their times were up, I'd come and reap the crops, like a good peasant farmer. That has been my interaction with the league mechanic so far, and it has yielded rather positive results. I have gotten the juicy stuff, and I've been able to craft some stuff. Some of that gear I have no use for, so I am attempting to sell it, but other stuff is really useful, though not for the current character, but for upcoming ones. So to summarize the conundrum, I kinda feel that the amount of powerful crafts did indeed become less common. Granted, I have been playing with the mechanic non-stop and I've been seeing those mods that apparently became rarer. I'd obviously like to get more of the crafts as often. I understand that, to a certain degree of balance, you really cannot let the league mechanic vomit powerful stuff non-stop, which is also kinda the problem with Harvest. It is a slower league in comparison to the last one where speed was key. It has less explosions and loot than Delirium. It also has less frequency than Delirium ever had. Harvest doesn't offer something flashy and engaging to a lot of people. In fact, if you read some of the opinions floating around, you can see a lot of people are actually indifferent to this crafting minigame. A lot of people don't understand how to craft a good item and they choose not to care. Even though I've been able to craft some stuff, that doesn't mean I'm investing all the time and effort to maximize the reward from the mechanic itself. Some of the stuff I've crafted so far is decent, but with more thought put into them, they could have been even more juicy, but for the time being, I am kinda okay with the results I've been getting. In a sense, I do feel like my experience is kinda the expected experience. Craft cool stuff here and there that while it won't be mirror worthy outright, it is useful for my characters or to profit a couple of exiles if traded. Anyways, that's the Harvest Week 1 experience. So let's wrap up the League starter. It was a Poison Cobra Lash Assassin. I've done 2 videos on the matter, but I didn't conclude on whether or not he achieved greatness or fell short of it. And to be honest, he kinda sits in the middle in the end. I've completed 131 maps as of me making the video. He's level 94, halfway to 95. I've died a couple of times and he did get rather okay gear, but after pretty much focusing on the crops rather than pushing the Conqueror's questline as his swan song, I'm actually gonna cut it short and move on to the next character. The reason being, I'm focusing a lot more on playing with the garden and crafting stuff at the moment rather than pushing the character to the last bit of the endgame. He wasn't bad, but I've had enough of him and it's time to move on to a new character rather than keep playing this one. Since I was attempting to craft a thick meaty shield, I may just end up playing a spectral shield throw, but I may even do brands, I don't know. You're gonna have to wait and tune in next time to find out. So with that said, that's gonna be it for this video. I wanna thank you for watching the content, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment help getting the video spread out to the masses. So yeah, have a great week and I'll catch you again on the next video. Take care and peace out.